Okay, today we're going to start the bottom of Samaches, that's 68a. We're starting 3 lines from the bottom, Gufa. We thank Hashem, we're able to learn every day. It's supposed to be learning. Should have the basement immediately. So, the Gemara starts Gufa. Really, Gufa is introducing a statement of Amoraim, but over here it looks like it's introducing a brisa. There's Amar Rebbe Basan Nizainis Mina Achim, and they tell us Isa Nechasim. Rebbe says that a daughter that's being supported by her brothers, which that was part of the arrangement when the father first married the mother, that he was going to support her daughters, their daughters. So he passed away, and the brothers are, and now the state is supporting the girls. Then the girls want to get married, so they take 1/10 of the estate for the dowry. Amrulai Rebbe. They told to Rebbe that Barecha, according to what you just said, Mishesh Lastabanus Ben. Let's say someone has 10 daughters. Now I guess they're assuming here that each one is going to take 1/10. That means it's going to be 10 tenths. There's going to be nothing left. And there's a son. He's not going to inherit anything because the daughters are going to take everything away. So Rebbe responds to them, I say it's slightly different. I say Rishaina, the first daughter. The way the Gemara thinks here is that the first daughter is getting married, and then a little while later, the second one. Rishaina Nitalas Isa Nechasim. First one's going to take 1/10. And Shnia b'mashashira. And the second one's going to take 1/10 of what's left over. So it's going to be 90 left over. It's going to take 9. Right? It's going to be left 81. So it's going to go down and down. Ushlishas and the third one, b'mashashira, what she's left over, what she leaves over. The third one's going to take not 10, not 9. It's going to take 8.1, I guess. And be left over 73, right? So, and then they're going to take all of their dowries and put them all back into the pot, and they're going to slice it up into 10 equally. Wow. Problem is, the Gemara now says, well, 1 second, everyone took their inheritance. That's not an inheritance. Everyone took their dowry. Why are you going to take it away from them and put it back in and then divide it again? That's not right. And it's the first one loses out on the 10th because someone got married 10 years later. So the Gemara says, this is really what's happening. If they all come to get married at the same time, it's an amazing shadchan. Finds 10 shidduchim for 10 girls in one shot. So, Chalkas b'shavim. Then they're going to divide it equally. But how are they going to divide it equally? What it means is like this. They're actually going to divide it up. I worked it out this morning. Not perfectly, but I did. The first one's going to get 10, the second one's going to get 9, the second one's going to get 8.1, then 7.3, then 6.4, and then 5.9, 5.4, and 4.9, 4.5, and 4. It's going to work it out until there's only 36 left out of 100. Which means that the son is going to get those 36. And is there a calculation in the art scroll or anything? I just worked it out on a business. 35. Okay, 35. I'm a little off. Which is going to leave 65. They're all going to take 65 all together. Then you divide that 65 into 10, 6.5 each one. And that's how it's going to work. So it's talking about what we switched now in the Gemara is that they're all getting married together. The son is still going to get an inheritance. They're going to make believe that they're taking it one after another, and which will leave the son an inheritance, and then they divide it up. Not that one got married, and then a few years later, the next one got married, and then they're going to start taking it out from this one and chopping it into. Okay. Rav Masna. This is a support for Rav Masna. Maybe it's Rav Matana. He was a friend and a student of Shmuel. that goes like this. The Rav Masna and Boli Nasi Kon Kach, and they tell us Iser Echad. If they all come to get married at the same time, then they take one Iser, 1/10. It's Iser Echad Tzalka, they took 1/10. Ala nightless Iser Ke'echad. They take a 10th all as one. I guess that means that they redivide it and they all get an equal 10th. I guess that's what I mean. Yeah, they each get a 6.5 of the 100. Yeah, they're supposed to get 10. They end up with 6.5. Yeah, your later ones would have gotten 4.4. Yeah, so yeah. He's the Bahar. Yeah, but the problem is before they do his inheritance, they have to subtract what's owed. This is a debt that's owed to them. That comes out before the inheritance. We want him to get an inheritance, but first we have to take all of this out. And what's left is going to be the estate that's left. The remaining is going to be his. So they have to take out all of these dowries before they. No, because they're girls, they don't inherit. They only get the dowry. So the nice tzlafkat was when there was no son. That's the problem. One son messes up all the girls. Okay. You see, if there's a Bahar, then he gets everything anyway. Yeah, but if there's only one son who's a Bahar, he gets the whole estate. Right. Okay.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. If the first child is a son,
and then there's 10 girls, he may be called a Bahar, but it's irrelevant because he gets everything. His daughter's not inherit. Over here, they're not inheriting either. They're just getting the dowry. Okay. Now, this gets slightly adjusted over here. It says Tanar Abana was taught in a Brisa. Abanais, the daughters, being Bagru actually Nisu, being Nisu actually Bagru, whether they reach maturity before they get married, or they get married before they reach maturity, Ibdum Zainasayam. They lose their support from the estate. Support was food. The rule was that the estate was supposed to support the daughters. Father passed away, young girls get supported. But if they get married, then they don't get the support. If they reach maturity, then they don't get the support. Then they're on their own. Now, however, but the dowry doesn't disappear just because they reach maturity. You still get the dowry. Yeah. Father passed away. Hasn't actually been set aside, but it's as if it's been set aside. That's got to go to them. Divrei Rebbe. That's the words of Rebbe. That they still get the dowry even though they reach maturity. Reb Shimon ben Elazar says, Ben Elazar is a student of Reb Meir. You have him in there. He says, after even next to Simchas. Towards the bottom of the under Rabbi Akiva is Reb Meir. And then under Reb Meir would be Reb Shimon ben Elazar. After Ivdu Parnasasan, that they don't get the dowry either because they reach maturity. That's a big chiddush. We didn't realize that when we were talking about this, that the dowry was only for young girls. We were thinking that everyone gets the dowry. Well, Kate said, "Hey, Nisus, what do they do?" Seichres lem bailem umaitzian lem parnasasan. I don't know what seichres means. It sounds like rent or hire. They what they do is they sort of get an early betrothal to make sure that they're going to get the dowry. So they lock in early to get in this dowry. Otherwise, they're going to lose it if they get married after maturity. So they hire themselves husbands so that they'll be able to get the dowry. They hire themselves husbands when they're younger.
So it's like the
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So this is like for citizenship, right?
It's real.
Dowryship. Dowryship. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure what's the term Seich Islam.
So this is from the
Etymology.
etymology. One
Okay.
of them is basic.
Kate said, okay, Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says, Amar Li Huna. That's interesting. Rav Nachman would be a colleague of Rav Huna, so he just calls him Huna. Huna told me, Delkasa Rebbe, that the Allah was like Rebbe. Rebbe held that they still get the dowry even if they reach maturity. They don't have to do that trick. Okay. Esvei Rav Rav Nachman. So Rav asked Rav Nachman, what about our Mishnah? Let's say there was an orphan girl that got married off by her mother or her brothers, and they give her a dowry only 50 or 150 zuz. When she reaches maturity, she's able to claim that you didn't give me what I was really deserving. I was really deserving 1/10 of the estate. And they just gave her this, so she's able to claim that. Now, time of diktana. What's the reason why she's allowed to make this claim is because when she got married, she was under the age of maturity. Hagedayla, we didn't mention if she's older. Why didn't we mention if she's older? Because Vitra. Vitra means she was, she forgave, she loses it. If she's older. Forgoes. She forgoes the dowry. Now that would fit with Rav Shimon ben Elazar, not with Rebbe. Rebbe says when she's older, she still gets a. If she gets married when she's older, after maturity, she still gets a dowry. Shimon ben Elazar says no, she only gets a dowry when she's younger. But according to the Mishnah, the case of the Mishnah was when she's younger, she can claim it when she's older. It implies that if she was older, she loses it. It's a kasha. How could you tell me the Allah was like Rebbe? The Allah is like Rebbe. The Mishnah seems to imply that the Allah is like Shimon ben Elazar. I guess that's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara says like kasha. Not a question. It depends if at the wedding she was protesting that she wants more. If she's older, then if she doesn't protest, then she loses it because she's old enough to protest. So she loses it if she doesn't protest. She has to protest. She has to make a claim. By the way, you didn't pay me everything that you owe me. She has to say that. If she doesn't say it, then that's what the Mishnah was talking about, that she would lose it. Or the implication of the Mishnah was that she would lose it. But Rebbe says that she still gets it. What does it mean she gets it? That's because she protested and she says, you only gave me part of what you really owe me. Mistabra. It's also logical. The king kasha the Rebbe, other Rebbe. Otherwise, we would have another contradiction. It's logical to say that the issue here is the protest. Otherwise, we'd have another issue. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Rebbe Yaimer Basan Izenis Mina Achen Meitelas Yisr Nachasa. This was the one that we quoted at the beginning of the Shir. The Rebbe says that if there's a girl that's being sustained by the brothers, she gets 1/10 of the possessions, 1/10 of the estate for her dowry. Why did we start off saying the girl that's being sustained by the brothers? Must be because she's younger. She doesn't know. No, the sustenance. Dowry is everything. They're living off the estate, and they owe her the dowry. Nizainus in only when she is getting sustained by the estate. That means that she's under the age of maturity, and that's when she gets it. But once she's older than that, then she does not get the dowry. So that would fit with the opinion of Reb Shimon ben Elazar. But Rebbe doesn't say that. Rebbe says that she's supposed to get the dowry even when she's older. So in order to resolve that contradiction, we also have to say that it's because of protesting or not protesting. And that means that for both of these, we're going to need to answer the same thing. That proves that that's probably shot there. Alalav shmamina, rather is it not? We see from this. Depends if she protests. If she protests that she's really owed more, then they have to give it to her, even though she's older than the age of maturity. But if she doesn't protest, then she's old enough to be mevater, to forgo, so then she doesn't get it. Why didn't she protest? It's because she was forgoing the extra money. Where do you see that? Oh, protest. They make her protest. Yeah. Well, really, what's happening is that they're making all of these arrangements here, and no one's talking about the extra money that she deserves. And she could just get married and never bring it up, and then later on, years later, she wants to buy something. Says, "Oh, 1 second, you never gave me all of that money that was really supposed to." So they're going to tell her that you were old enough to protest back then. You didn't say anything. We've already spent it already. You can't claim it now. If you would have mentioned it back then we would have put it aside or whatever. Okay. Amalei Ravina Larava. Ravina says to Rava. Amalan Ravada Barava Shimcha. Ravada Barava said in your name. Where's Ravada Barava? Is he a student of Rava? He should be on there. Can I see the chat? Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Sounds like he's a student of Rava at least. This must be Ravina, the first Ravina, not the second Ravina. The second Ravina is much later. So Ravina says to Rava, that Ravada Barava said in your name, Bagra, if she reaches maturity, then Eina Tzricha Limches. She still doesn't need to protest just because she's mature. She still is deserving of the 10th of the estate for her dowry, even without protesting. Nissus, but when she does get married, Nissus ain't a tzricha limchus. And if she gets married, she also doesn't need to protest. It's only bagra v'nissus tzricha limchus. Only if she's married and mature, that's when she needs to protest. Now it sounds like the dowry was being given at the Erusin. And that's why it's saying that once she gets married, that's when the betrothal, it sounds like. The problem is, Miyama Rava Hachi. Did Rava really say this? Now, I'm not sure if this is the conversation of Rabina to Rava, or if this is the Gemara challenging Rava's statement. I guess it's the Gemara. Miyama Rava Hachi. Did Rava really say this? Va'isvei Rava Rav Nachman, but Rava had a question to Rav Nachman, Yisaima, from our Mishnah, that said that if she's underage, then she gets the 10th of the estate for her dowry. It implied that if she's over the age of maturity, then she doesn't. And we had to answer that that what was it talking about? That she still gets it even if she's over the age of maturity, but that's only because it was depends if she protested. And Rabba here is saying that even if she doesn't protest, she still gets it. Gemara says like kasha. We're going to make another distinction here that's going to resolve this. It says hadaka mitzana minai or hadalaika mitzana minai. Depends if she's being sustained by them as well. If she's being supported, if she's being supported by the brothers, and she doesn't protest, you owe me more. And the reason why she didn't protest is because she was uncomfortable protesting after they're sustaining her, they're supporting her. So the reason why she didn't say anything is because how could she tell them? And not that she was for going on that, she wasn't for giving it. She just couldn't bring it up because they were still supporting her. She was embarrassed to bring it up. Right. Yeah, it sounds like she's getting sustained even after her marriage. Why are they sustaining her after her marriage? They don't have to do that. Yeah. Maybe this is not an arrangement. Maybe this is just an extra thing that they're doing. And that's why yeah, it sounds like it's an extra thing, that they don't really need the sustainer, but they are. And therefore, she's not able to tell them anything about the dowry that they owe her.
Now I understand. It's
Oh,
it's another situation. Somebody needs somebody. It's an ass. You got
right,
this time.
right. We had a Gemara before about someone that does kindness every day. Let's speak someone that supports his children. Remember that? Even though they're over the age that he needs to. Remember a Gemara like that? That's it, Kaliyah or something.
Sorry, we reach 50 years old since it's up to that.
Get a job.
It's trial later.
So love the parents. Right.
It's interesting.
Oh. Huh.
Huh?
Looks like the end of a paragraph. Okay. So now it says, Amar Rav Huna, statement from Rav Huna. Amar Rebbe. Huna says in the name of Rebbe. It's interesting that it just says it like that. I don't think Rav Huna actually learned by Rebbe. Rav Huna's teacher learned by Rebbe. Rav learned by Rebbe. Amar Rebbe, Parnasa ena kitnai ksuba. The dowry is not like a what do you translate tonight ksuba? A stipulation of the ksuba. Now the stipulation of the ksuba would be sustenance of the girls. That's like would be a typical tonight ksuba. The girls need to be supported by the state. But the dowry is not considered, it's not in the same thing. If you remember, we said that if he clearly wouldn't give it, then you don't have to give it. It's only we're making assumptions how much he would give, and we have to, there are things about evaluating how generous he was. It's not a set amount, that's a stipulation of the ksuba. Okay. What is the significance of the statement that it's not a stipulation of the ksuba? Inema the ilu parnasa tarfim mishabdi tonight subalay tarfim mishabdi. Maybe what it means is like that. If properties of the estate were sold, and then the girl wants to come and get her parnasa, wants to get her, not her parnasa, her dowry, we call it parnasa. She wants to get a dowry. So she would be able to take it from the sold properties, as opposed to Tanai Ksuba, as opposed to her sustenance, where she cannot go to sold properties and take it. Taltlin was another issue. We're talking about Karka, yeah. The Gemara says, but if that's the case, then why do I need Rebbe to say this? My Kamashmalan. My Kamash, what's the Chiddush? We have this all the time, that sold properties from the state are confiscated. Not confiscated. They're taken back. They're seized to pay for the dowry. The brother sold it off, but they really had a prior lien on it for the sister's dowry. But they don't seize the properties that were sold to support the girls. So we already have that statement. I don't need Rebbe to tell that to us here. Maybe what it means is that the dowry could be taken from personality. However, tonight, yeah, that's part of the estate, right? But tonight, ksuba. But when it comes to the sustenance or stipulations of the ksuba, that's only taken from real estate. But it can't be taken from personality. So if that's the case, so then we understand what Rebbe said. The Rebbe says that the dowry has more ability to collect than the stipulation of the ksuba, because it can be taken from the dowry could be taken from personality as well. The Gemara says, but but according to Rebbe, the problem is you can take both from metaltali, even the sustenance for the girls, even the stipulation of the ksuba. The Tanya was started in the brisa. Whether it's possessions that have a lien on them or possessions that don't have a lien on them, you're allowed to take for the sustenance of the daughters and also for the sustenance of the wife and the daughters. Different Rebbe, that's Rebbe's view. So then we're back with, we don't really have a difference between the dowry and the stipulation of the ksuba. And why is Rebbe saying that this is not like that? Like, for what relevance is that? Elamai parnasa, what does it mean? Parnasa in a ksuba, what does it mean that the dowry is not like stipulation? The ksuba, like the Tanya, it's for something else. It's not in the brisa. If someone says, Al Yazainu Benaisav Minachasav, he says, my daughters should not be sustained by my estate. Ain't Shaimanai, we don't listen to him. Why? Because he already agreed when he married his wife that he was going to support the daughters. So he can't change his mind now. It's in the ksuba contract. If he says, if he says that my daughters should not get married, should not get the dowry from my estate, then Shaimanai, then they listen to him. Because the dowry is not a stipulation in the ksuba.
Is this?
Yeah, this is in his will. Now, like we mentioned before, that all of this concept of dividing the estate into 10 and giving her 1/10, all of that was an assumption if we don't know specifically that he doesn't want to do it. We assume that that's what he wants. But if he says clearly that he's not paying for the wedding, he's not giving a dowry, then he's allowed to do that.
Here's a woman getting married. Extremely keep on talking about this. Her father's tradition.
Yeah.
It's also the time
Yeah. Right.
It's nothing to do with that.
That's for the dowry. That's it. Right. Yeah, but the stipulation was in the father's kesubos to the mother that he was going to support his daughters. Right.
But
Now here are the daughters, and they want two things: they want sustenance and they want the dowry. So when the father died, he left in his will that the daughters don't get fed and they don't get the dowry. Now we don't listen to him regarding the sustenance being fed, but we do listen to him regarding the dowry.
But the kesubos is what it's the obligation. The new husband.
To the children.
Maybe event to divorce his woman
Right.
later on. So how can he make a promise based on what's the father's will that hasn't even been executed? You say word money. You know how to say that.
It has nothing to do with
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with it. Talale Rav the Rebbe Ben Yechitiran's Samach Tes on the top of 69a. Rav wrote a letter to Rebbe. Rav is a student of Rebbe, right? Remember in Sanhedrin, he learns, he goes to Rebbe, then he goes back. Rav's a student of Rebbe. He writes him a letter, and between the lines, he puts in a question. Bene chiti. Chiti may mean between the stitches of the paper. So he adds in a question. His question goes like this. Ha'achin sheshibdu mahu. If the brothers put a lien on the property, what's the din? Rabbi Yosef Reb Chia came. So Reb Chia was Rab's uncle from both sides, remember? Rab's brother, it's Reb Chia. And Reb Chia's half sister ends up marrying. No, Rab's father's brother is half brother is Reb Chia, and Reb Chia's half sister marries Rab's father. That's his uncle. On both sides. So Amrle, Reb Chia was sitting there, and he says to Rebbe, Machrei Mishkana, what is he talking about? Is he talking about that it was sold, or was he talking about that it was given as a collateral? Did he actually sell the property off? And Rob wants to know if they can collect from a sold property to seize it from the purchaser, to give it to the daughters for the dowry, or are we talking about that just they gave it as a collateral for a loan that they took, but it wasn't really sold, it's still theirs, right? It's just a collateral that if they don't pay back, then he's going to take it. But can they now take it back for the dowry? Amalei, my nafkamina. Rebbe says to Rebbe, what's the difference? Bein machra, bein mishkana, bein shemishkana. Whether it was sold or whether it was just given as a collateral, mitzion leparnas, mitzion lemezainis, it's taken for the dowry, but it's not taken back for sustenance of the girls. Why isn't it taken back for the sustenance of the girls? It was just given as a mashkin. Yeah, but we also said that the dowry we were able to take from personality, the sustenance we were not. I think the difference had to do with the dowry is a set amount, and the sustenance could go on forever. Or it's not a set amount. That was more difficult to start taking away. So people would purchase a property, and if sustenance could be taken from that, then you'd never know. Well, you weren't able to ask a question. Well, how much is it going to be, and what are the odds that this is going to end up coming back to bite? But when it comes to a set amount, you could say, well, how much was that? And then you can say, I'll be fine by buying this property. Yeah, so they don't want to have something that's in debt, that's unlimited to be a lien on a property, because then it's impossible to estimate how much it's going to be. Okay. So now the Gemara says, why did Rav ask the question so vaguely? It says, V'Rav, what was Rav thinking? If he was asking about if the brothers sold the property, then he should write, he should have written, they sold it. If he was asking about the mashkan, that it's a collateral, then he should have asked collateral. They gave it as a collateral. The Gemara answers, Rav Tavaya Kami Baile. Rav was actually asking both. See, he was being ambiguous here because he wanted to get the answer to both. The Savar, and he thought like this: if he writes that if the brothers sold the property, Hanicha, then it's going to come out good. If Rebbe responds back that you can seize the property from the purchaser in order to pay for the dowry, and if you can seize it from purchaser, then for sure you can take it from someone that's holding it as a collateral. Then for sure I got the answer. However, the opposite, but if they say you can't seize it, then akati mishkana kamibayli, then I don't have an answer for if it's given as a collateral. You can only not seize it if it was sold. So he doesn't have the full answer. So mishkana, but if he writes the other way, if he writes if it was given as a collateral, so ishalachli they might see, and if Rebbe responds that you're not allowed to take it back, kolshkin macher, then for sure if it was sold, you can't take it back in order to seize it for to pay for the dowry. Ishalachli mitzian. But if he sends back that you're allowed to seize the property, so akati macher kami baili, then that's only because it was given as a collateral. But if it's sold, maybe you're not allowed to. So I would still be left with an answer. It sounds like there was not a lot of room on that paper for Rav to spell it out. So he writes it vague just to get a full answer back, because he's going to have to answer right according to both possibilities. So echtav shibdu the mashmachi. So therefore, Rav wrote that it was shibdu, that it was just put a lien on it, and then that means, what does it mean, a lien? A lien for who? A lien for someone else, or it means that he sold it and there's remaining a lien on it from the system. Rabbi Yochanan says the opposite. Not the opposite. Rabbi said that you only seize the property to pay for the dowry, but not for the sustenance. Rabbi Yochanan says no, seize the property. You don't seize the property even for the dowry. Once it's sold, you can't take it back for the pay for the sister's dowry. Once the brothers are selling the property, it was really the sisters were supposed to have some part of that, 1/10, and Rabbi Yochanan said you can't take it back. Does he say why? Yeah.
You know, I was struck. Any land that's sold, if it's subject to being the wife out based on a consumer. I couldn't believe that. It's
Yeah. Right.
All of a sudden you're treating that differently.
Right. Yeah, but this is a little different because it's not really part of the ksuba.
So,
Right.
Right. It's got wife, and they know that.
Right.
Actually, that goes back to the distinction we made on the previous.
Right. Right. Now the Gemara asks, Rabbi Yochanan leishmiele had Rabbi, v'ishmiele have makabele, v'dil mishmiele v'le makabele. Why did Rabbi Yochanan say different than Rabbi? Is it because he knows what Rabbi says and he rejects it, or is it that he didn't hear what Rabbi said? And if he would have heard, he probably would have accepted Rabbi's view. Why did he say what he said? Tashima, come and listen. The Itmar was taught, Misha Meis, someone that passed away. He left 2 daughters and a son. The first daughter gets married, she takes 1/10 for her dowry. The second one didn't get a chance to get her dowry, and the son passed away. What happens now is when there's no son, the brothers inherit. I'm sorry, there's no son, the sisters inherit. There's no son. The sisters inherit. Now, the rule of the dowry was that you take it before the sons inherit. Here, there is no rule of dowry. They just get their inheritance. They just get the straight inheritance. So, Amar Rabbi Yochanan Shniya Vitra. The second daughter forgoes the dowry. She got half the inheritance, but she forgoes that extra. We don't say, okay, separate 1/10 and then divide the rest equally. We just divide the rest equally. We divide the whole thing equally. We don't take off 1/10 first. That would only be if there was a son there that was taking the whole property, the whole estate. Then we would take off 1/10 first before he got the estate. But here there is no son. Here there's only one son.
Number two. Number two loses out.
Number two, this is how, because it's just going to be divided in half right now. No, that was only when they were getting married at the same time. Right.
This point.
So, Amar Rab Chanina, so Rab Chanina says, Rab Chanina is a teacher of Rabbi Yochanan. He's older than Rabbi Yochanan. Rab Chanina says, Gedola mizu amru. We said much greater than this. That if the property gets sold, you take it away you take it from the purchaser to pay for the dowry. That means even though the property was sold, you're ready to seize the property to pay for the dowry. And over here you're saying because there's a sister here that's going to take half, so therefore you can't get the dowry out. You're ready to take it even from an entire set. Even if it was sold to an outsider, you were ready to seize the property back to give it the dowry. Now here it's all internal. You can't get the dowry for the girl, right? The two sisters are going to just divide it without the dowry being given. The Im Isa, if we say that Rabbi Yochanan never heard of this opinion, Rebbe said that you take from the purchaser. Rebbe says that you take from the purchaser to supply for the dowry. We had a question: did Rabbi Yochanan know that Rebbe said that? Rabbi Yochanan said you don't. The question is: did Rabbi Yochanan hear that Rebbe said that? Rabbi Chanina tells him this view of Rebbe. Now, the Imisa, namely Manamra. If we say that Rabbi Yochanan never heard it, so why does Rabbi Yochanan not respond to Rabbi Chanina, who told you that that's the case? And then he would have to say Rebbe said, but he doesn't say that. Maybe it must be that Rabbi Yochanan knows that Rebbe said it, and he knows, and he just argues. The Gemara says, maybe the truth is that he didn't hear it. And if he would hear it, he would accept it. The reason over here why we're saying that she forgoes it, according to Rabbi Yochanan, she forgoes it because she has so much coming to her that she is getting half the estate. So that's why she's forgiving it. Amar le Rav Yemel or Rav Ashi. Rav Yemel says to Rav Ashi, if that's the case, that because she has so much coming to her, she forgives the dowry, She's walking on the street and she finds a treasure. So she has so much coming to her, so she forgoes the dowry. Amalei, so he responds. Rav Ashi says, no. I'm not talking about an outside source is going to cause her to forgo the dowry. It's only because it was coming from the same source. She's getting half. Take it easy. You're getting half the property here instead of 1/10. Well, she wants a 10th and a half. But nevertheless, coming from the same source, so that maybe she forgoes. Leave it over here. Let's see later. Okay. Good day, everyone.
Thank you.